All right, centers part one. Let's do this.
Yeah. So we're looking at the pressure centers. There, as you go through these videos, you'll see there are different types of centers, and there's some are kind of related to each other. And we're going to start with the two pressure centers, which is the one at the very top and the one at the very bottom. So let's start at the top. This is the head. The head is it's connected to the pineal gland, so up there, and it's a pressure center because it wants to understand. It's wanting to clear doubts and confusion. So look at yours. Are you open or closed? Defined or undefined? How is that for you? And then listen from that perspective. So what it does, it creates this curiosity, pressure to understand, and if it's undefined, you may question, where am I going to get my answers? Like, who's my next guru? What book do I need to read? And quite honestly, most of the things that you question, especially if your head is undefined, is that they're questions that don't really matter. You may have to come back and revisit that statement because it may seem really important to you. So you get occupied with questions and concerns or worries. I've seen people that have the 61 just spin out. They keep rotating things around and around in their head. They can be quite uncomfortable. Each of these has a different flavor. Since I told you the 61 is rational and it spins it around, the 64 is very abstract and it's always looking back. And the 63 is about concerns or doubt, or is that going to work, or self-doubt, or doubting something in our lives. So they each have a different flavor. And so concerns, worries, things that don't matter. Am I trying to answer everybody's questions? So say you're, at a dinner table or the boardroom table, and it's like, oh, I need to have the answer for that. Or, maybe with your clients, thinking you always have to have the answer. Not necessarily true with an undefined, opened head. And keeping the focus. Sometimes it's more difficult to focus in when you have an open head center.
Okay. And when you said when they have the 61 or the 64, that means if that gate, that's what it's called, that if that gate or that number is colored in, there's an additional meaning within the center, which is another layer of information. But I just wanted to specify that everyone has all the numbers, but only some of the numbers are going to be colored in for each individual person. Obviously,
right?
You see that
exactly.
On your chart, but okay.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So some of the things that are going on in that head, if it's undefined, is you notice your mind and what it's saying or telling you about life, or noticing how the mind will continually try and make decisions. Notice the mental dialogue and how it relates to your other centers. So it has commentary. So you have to be just paying attention. If this is new information for you, you may not totally accept what's being said here if it's undefined, because what it does, it's like it's trying to figure out your life. And as we know, that's not where our authority is not in the mind. We already talked about that in the inner authority section. So unaligned, open center, I need to find something inspiring. Who's my guru? Where am I going? Maybe if I go there, I'll find something inspiring. I need to find answers to my questions. Where can I go to find my answer? Who has my answer? And I've got to understand this and make sense of this. And where can I go, or who can I talk to in order to find the answers? When you feel that, remember, this is a pressure center. If you have an undefined head and you feel that pressure, it's like, how can you just let it wash over you? How can you put in some pearls of trust that the answers will come through a book, through a phone call, standing in the grocery line? It's like, oh, I don't have to have my answer. It will come to me. So if you have none of these gates, which is each of those numbers there, the 64, 61, 63, those are gates. As Nicole mentioned, if you don't have any of those gates, sometimes you just don't know what to think. Can be confusing.
I think this is important because I know sometimes if you have a defined center here and then you have a defined gate and maybe you always know what to think and somebody else is like, I don't know what I think. You know what I mean? You can notice an intolerance there of being frustrated with other people. And other times, other people have a solid sense of knowing things, and you are on the other side where you're like, I don't know what I think. And then you notice the tension in that relationship where they're like, how do you not know what you think? This is where it's understanding the design is part of accepting what is without living in the tension that it's wrong.
Exactly.
Just because it's different. So it's part of what we're trying to just express to you is that this might be what you're going through. And just an acceptance of what is part of the relief you'll feel in being aligned by your design of just not fighting with thinking that you have to be like someone else who has a defined head center, who knows what they're doing and thinking all the time or whatever that is, that it's okay to just be different and to live in the
Yes.
in the acceptance of that. And who knows what happens after you get into acceptance and not in the resistance, but that's part of being in the design. So, okay.
Well, when you get into acceptance, your body relaxes. That's
right.
One of the things. You're more comfortable in your skin. Okay, so just, a lot of people are undefined, okay? 71% at least at the last numbers counted. Is undefined, opened. And so the unaligned strategy, just kind of to review that, is thinking about yourself and things that don't matter, trying to answer everyone's questions, unaligned decisions. I'll find out for you. I need to find the answer. I'll look that up. Let me go get that for you. Or else the world, what does it say? I have to find the answers or else the world as I know it will fall apart. That's a little extreme, but some people are like that. So what is aligned? If it's undefined, it's like enjoy the mind, but does not make decisions based on what it thinks. It makes decisions based on inner authority. I do want to also add here that you can recognize a great idea, or you can recognize what's really inspiring when you're not feeling pressured to. It's like, oh yeah, I like what that person said, or that fits for me, but not under a pressure. It's just allowing it to come through. So the wisdom knows what is not worthy of thinking about, knows what inspiration is, and not of value for humanity. Kind of touched on that. Effects of a defined on undefined. So as Nicole was saying, it pressures others to act on inspiring things or to give up worthy, inspiring things. You can influence your thinking when someone is defined. So you do want to, like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me get back to you on that. Boy, I feel really inspired in the moment, but let me get back to you on that. So not feeling pressured to have to take action right away.
And I think this is so key, is that understanding the authority pieces, that making decisions through our head, it's like 70% of the people shouldn't be or can't, right? Like that's part of this process, is like learning how to feel out your decisions in your body as opposed to logically trying to make sense of them in your mind. that's part of what this is learning how to exercise your authority. So
Exactly.
it's amazing. I'm practicing this as a new student, and Natalie and I are having conversations even just before this about how to lean into my design and to make decisions based on my authority, rather than what my brain is telling me. And it takes practice. I'm sure I'll be doing it my whole life, but anyway.
As everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we're going to look at, these are the healthy states of the defined center. So if you're one of the 30 or 29% that have it colored in, it's like, creates a mental pressure in the world to grasp and understand things. Knows that confusion, doubt, and clarity is a natural process. Like, not pressuring someone like, what? You don't know what you think? What's the matter with you? It's like, if it's defined, it's like allowing others to come to their own conclusion. Knows that these processes have their own inner timing and resolution, and has the ability to uplift and empower others. Yes, there's a lot of inspiration that comes with each of those gates that we looked at, or especially if it would be a full channel, because it would make it defined. So both with insights and inspiration, and you can be an outer authority for others. We don't want to have you think that the mind has a purpose, and figuring out your life is not one of them, but there's plenty of other great things that it can do. And if you have it defined, then you have the ability, you have the freedom that you're here to help inspire others. Not that people that don't have it defined don't inspire others, it just happens in a different way. Okay, so the undefined head explores ideas and information coming from all directions, open to the wonder of the unknown and uncertainty. Does not act on mental pressure. We already addressed that. Does not take on the pressure of others people's need for answers, or to try to be the outer authority for others. So what do you think? If a person comes up and asks someone with an undefined center, well, so what do you think? It's like, well, how did that work for you in the past? It's like, you don't have to have the answer. You can just send it right back to them. What's worked, or how's that relationship been for you over the last 6 months or the last 3 days, or whatever the situation is. Okay, and enjoys the pressure to know more without becoming identified with the pressure. Enjoys the questions or the confusion and trusts that it will become clear later or not. So I can also relate this to like technology, or trying to solve a techie problem with an undefined center, or getting deep into research. There's some times where it's just full. It's just full. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. And it's like, well, you got to keep going. You got to get the answer. No, you don't. No, you don't. Take a break. Step back. Ask someone else. Look at it tomorrow.
Yeah. I think
otherwise it's headaches. It literally, undefined head literally creates headaches if you really try to push what's not natural for you.
Yeah. And that's, natural healthy state. So here's when you're in your elements or whatever, this is what it looks like. But if you want to look at the unaligned states, this helps you to know where the work is. Like, right? This is when these things are happening, these are indications of the work that needs to be done to get to the healthy and aligned states. So
okay, so unaligned. Well, we're going to look at that. I got ahead of myself.
That's okay.
So defined head. All right, so this is unaligned, where you might turn some mental pressures in on themselves, or causing them to be driven into deep anxiety. I talked about that 61, how it can really create some deep anxiety and keep going over the same thing. It can also create some self-doubt or depression. I should know this, or this should be resolved by now. Those kinds of programs and tapes that go off in the mind, or attempting to solve the pressure by outside action, maybe being hasty or inappropriate in mental decisions. Not rushing is the point there, and can be incapable of remaining patient or waiting to get some result. Want to get, let's get the ball to the goal, right? Or it could be feeling like they really missed out, missing opportunities for inspiration. So if that's you, just take some notes and see what resonates with you or not. Review those for those that are defined. If you're undefined, unaligned, I think we've talked quite a bit about these already, easily becomes lost or overwhelmed by doubt and confusion, tries to resolve other people's questions by taking on the worries of others. Oh boy, I just got a little aha on that one in this very moment. It's like, oh, you're so concerned about that. And then I empathize, right?
Yep.
Tries to release mental pressure through action. Well, I just got to go do something about this, right? And then also that losing focus. And losing focus could be just not taking a break at the right time, right? Just trying too much and then you totally lose the focus.
Right.
Okay. So that all went with the head center. Make your notes. We're moving on now to the other pressure center. And this is the pressure center of the root, the very bottom. Look at all the numbers there. There's a lot. I mean, this is like the gas station of the whole system right here. It's like, what do you have energy for? It's connected to the bodies, the stress, adrenaline, and also worry and potential for depression, depending on how this, is wired for you. So the adrenals. So anybody ever had adrenal burnout? Oh yes, many times. So let's move on. We're going to look at if it's defined or undefined. So undefined open root center. People that have this undefined it can show up in a way that you can really pressure yourself to be in a hurry, to get rid of the pressure. So those to-do lists that you have, it's like, oh, I got to get that done, and I got to get that done, and I got to get that done. So that's pressure. And the reason why is because you don't want to be under pressure. I want to get all that done so I can not feel the pressure, so I can relax. And to question, am I hurrying to get these things done? So you have to be your own coach on this. You have to be your own inner sensation. Like, am I really rushing myself here?
Right. That understanding that a lot of that pressure is coming from an internal dialogue.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of like if the phone's ringing, like, do you have to answer it? That's pressure from the outside world, right? Or, when you're in the store and they're like, okay, in 10 minutes, we'll be closing the store. It's like, oh, you got an open route. It's like, oh my God, I got to get everything. I got to hurry up.
Right.
I told Nicole before this, I'm like, I'm an expert in an undefined root center. Oh my gosh. Okay, so some of the dialogue, the inner dialogue that's going on is, what am I going to do to make my life better? So there's that pressure, right? Where's my purpose? I have to achieve something in my life. I better hurry up and get things done. I got to start something and I got to start it now. And how can I get past my limitations? What am I going to focus on? I need something to focus on. I need to be needed. Who needs me? Where can I go to be needed? Where is my passion? What am I passionate about? And I feel like a new experience. I want to, I have to hurry up and initiate a new experience. I don't want to waste any time. I have to get this done. So each of those questions or statements correlates with one of the numbers, because I know the numbers and I know the energy. It's like each one of those numbers, 58, 38, 54, creates a different kind of pressure and creates a different kind of inner dialogue. And so when you really understand your chart more, this is the beginning level. We're just focusing on the centers. We're not focusing on the gates.
Right.
There's too many here to go through the whole thing. But yeah, it's like somebody may not be that concerned about what am I focusing on or where's my limitations. It depends on which one of those numbers, if any, are activated in your chart. So if you have no gates that are activated and that you have an undefined root center, you're not knowing when to hurry. I would say this may be coming up, but there's also another way that the undefined root center shows up. It's like on one side, there's this pressure to hurry up and get things done, or yeah, I need energy for that, and I don't have energy for that. And on the other side is like complete procrastination. It's like nothing's getting done. And so it's for you to, with an undefined root, is to really find out what's the right pressure. It's kind of like tuning a guitar string or a piano. It's like, what is the right pressure that that works for you? Mm. And it's a relearning all the time. So
can I ask, when you say that, if you're noticing that there's a procrastination, for me, sometimes I've thought that procrastination was like a sign of some brokenness in me for a while. But what I'm starting to understand is that sometimes a procrastination for me is like I'm having resistance to doing something because I've agreed to something that I didn't actually want to do, and there's resistance. And so sometimes procrastination is an indication of out of alignment. Does that really?
Well, your root center functions a little bit differently, and you have more of awareness of a pressure, and just the way your whole design is wired, you also have kind of an intuitive knowing to go, right. This doesn't quite feel right. Okay. For someone that's undefined and they're procrastinating, and it really depends on what it is, because it's not necessarily that procrastination is really bad. Right. Another example is, say you're going to take a trip. Well, if you're going to take a trip, you got to pack a bag. And, so 4 days before your trip, it's like, well, it's too soon. I can procrastinate that. It's okay. There's no pressure. But come the night before you're going to take a trip, if you have an undefined center, you feel the pressure. It's like, oh, I got to get on an airplane or meet someone or whatever the thing is. And then there's the pressure. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's like, oh, I need this, 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 and this. And you can pack your bag when the right pressure is there.
Okay, thank you.
So that was a mouthful.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Defined and undefined. Okay, so 40% of the population have this undefined. 40% of the people do not handle the stress from the outside world. Unaligned strategy, always in a hurry to get rid of the pressure. We talked about that, being impatient. If it is the only undefined center, in all aligned strategies are based on relieving and releasing the pressure. I got to get that done so I can get out of the pressure. Unaligned decisions, just hurrying, rushing around, driving too fast, being pushy at the grocery line, speeding. Through something, speeding on the freeway or something or rushing through something you really enjoy, like taking a shower or reading a book. Okay. True self uses the authority to decide what's worthy of dealing with quickly. If the building is on fire, guess what? That's pressure. Time to go. That's an extreme example. Knows which pressures are worthy of speedy action and affected by the undefined or undefined pressures others to hurry. Okay, any questions on that? Some of these slides, we're going to be transparent here. We are using from a training program. So it's a little bit awkward at times, some of the language.
Right, okay.
But for simplicity's sake and continuity. Okay, so root centers, if it's defined, what's the healthy way is have a consistent internal way of processing pressure, processing the pressure according to their design. So not just the root center, the whole energy map that you got with your human design rave chart. And knowing not to pressure others, does not expect others to handle the load like they do. What? You haven't got that done yet?
Right.
Okay, undefined, healthy, allows pressure to flow through them without acting, maybe some breathing exercises when you feel that, without acting on it. Is not hurried or pressured to make a decision, and uses the pressure energy to their advantage. Like the example I said about, packing your bag the night before. It's like, oh, the pressure's here and I need that and I need that. It takes me 15 minutes to get everything together because the pressure is there and I'm using that.
Healthily, right? Like instead of I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what's the big deal?
Yeah. Right? Instead of the shame spiral of like, here we are, last minute packing at the end of the night again, like none of that is necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No shaming. Okay. When it's undefined, the defined root, there can be hard on others who cannot deal with the stress, put people under even more stress. And the pressure held in their body and it's not released in an appropriate way, like, holding it in instead of maybe going for a 10-minute walk because somebody's not ready when you're ready, something like that. Undefined root hurries endlessly and forever, damaging their physical health. Been there, done that. Takes on the stress of others and being impatient. Well, I guess I'll raise my hand on that one too. So here we are. Now is your opportunity to really look at, maybe even review the centers of what's colored in and not colored in these two pressure centers. And how are you going to test that out for yourself? Part of a way to test it out is to know other people's charts of people in particularly that you're around a lot and see how things shift for you. Does that person have a defined head or they have a defined root? For example, my son has a defined root and I do not. And I remember one time he was coming over to pick me up for lunch and I was, in my world, doing my thing. And he walks in the door. He's like, what? Aren't you ready? What? You haven't been in the shower yet? It's like he pressured me and I totally got it. It's like, oh, and then I jump up and it's like, oh, I don't have to jump up. Or the phone rings. You don't have to jump up if you have an undefined root. So that's just one example. And so there's been a whole then you go into the whole process of integrating and creating different kinds of self-talk to yourself. Like, oh, I don't have to rush because everyone else is. And so I'm a much calmer person now. I've got my alignment. I can be aware of, like, I used to live on adrenaline rushes. No more.
Yeah.
If I have an adrenaline rush, it's because, maybe a fire truck goes by or something really big happens that tells me this is urgent. I have to take action.
Yeah.
Any comments on helping them get the most out of these two centers?
Just a reflection, I think is interesting. You mentioned the phone call thing. And I remember being in conversation with someone and them saying, like when they're at home, they carry their home phone and their cell phone, like wherever they go, because if the phone rings, like they have to answer. And I'm, even though I'm a defined route, like a phone ringing is just like, it's a no, never mind thing for me. Like if I'm nearby and I want to answer, I do. But if I don't, I like literally don't feel the need to run to the phone. So I'm just kind of curious about being a defined route and not feeling the pressure to respond out to things that are outside of me. That's a healthy state? Like I'm like,
yes, that's healthy. Like yes, that an undefined route, they feel that pressure come in and they feel like, oh, I got to do something about it. I got to hurry up and answer it. So no, that's perfect. It's like, or if you're in the grocery store or whatever store and they say we're closing in 10 minutes, you're like, okay, I got time to get the things that I need and get in line. For me, it's like, oh, I got to hurry. That's the unaligned way.
Wait for me, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Versus kind of going, okay, I take a breath. I don't have to hurry. I heard you. But that's part of this experiment, integrate alignment. You have to notice. We want you to notice when you feel that jolt of adrenaline.
All right. Well, so we'll go ahead and end it here. We'll see you in the next module. Thank you, everyone. And see you in the next one.